it's a great event. I'm all the time so happy to be at Heartland events because I, as well as many other educators, owe a lot to Heartland Institute. Heartland Institute is providing me with real intellectual weapons in my classes. It's a wonderful materials about this hoax of global warming. It's telling the truth about our economy, about our society. And I think that Heartland is also spearheading the work with tea parties, because for tea party organizers to have these toolboxes, it's a wonderful thing to have. I am very proud to be associated with tea parties. Well, those of you who don't know me, I have a very bizarre background. I was one of economic advisors to Gorbachev's government in Moscow. And if there was something too big to fail, then definitely it was the Soviet Union with 11 time zones and 1/6 of the world's surface completely destroyed by its government with nobody else's help. So then I defected to the United States and to the land of the free and the brave. And today I can see that this country is being deliberately destroyed with the same ideas which destroyed the USSR. And this is, I think that if you would put a true Marxist-Leninist in the White House, he would do exactly the same what our president is doing there right now. I just returned back with my students from South Africa. Been there for 6 weeks. And South Africa, it's exactly the same. They, I think, are mimicking us. Their president, their Marxist president, Jacob Zuma, he talks about minimum wage right now. I think that Mr. Obama, who visited Nelson Mandela's funerals, he kind of royally briefed him what should be right, what the agenda should be. And that's minimum wage, the destruction of healthcare system. Now they want to ban private insurance completely. And then also to squeeze, I would say, rich people out of the country. Not just white people, everybody. The rich people are getting out of South Africa, whether you're black or white or Indian descent, they are living in masses. The same actually happening in the United States. We don't hear about that. That 7 million Americans are living outside of the United States. That last year alone, 3,500 Americans denounced their US citizenship. It's about 4 times more than in the year 2007. So we're squeezing out the people who are very productive and bringing people who lack a lot of basic education, bringing poverty from very poor places. And I would say our social workers, so-called social work, it's already exploded to the point that we have 2.7 million people who are just dispensing government goodies. And then you build up a majority of minorities, you declare everybody a victim, and then you play the race card, you play this environmental propaganda card, and then I think these are the major 2 tools in kind of in a toolbox of the White House today. In that book about tea parties, I happened to teach a year ago at the University of Dallas in Texas, and a friend of mine brought me to a tea party, and so I talked to some people there. They said, "What if you will talk?" And so I made a speech there in Dallas, Texas, at the Tea Party meeting. And immediately after the speech, a lot of Tea Party organizers came to me and he said, "How much do you charge for speeches?" I said, "For Tea Party, nothing, zilch. And I'll be happy to do whatever I can to help you guys." And so, because with zero price supply curve, also unlimited demand. So I spoke in one semester. I spoke at 23 tea parties in Texas. That's how I came up with this book. Because the Tea Party, I think it's really, they hate Tea Party so much because it's doing something right. It's exactly in the Soviet Union that was the case. If they praise somebody, that would be a awful person. If somebody is being trashed, the more they trash, that means the more they hate the person because this person is far from evil, which they are evil. So this, I think, is for me was, I remember one tea party in Sherman, Texas. It's the middle of nowhere. It's actually on the state line with Oklahoma. And one lady, and there were a lot of people, and one lady, she said, "You're like Sarah Palin. You came here to scare us." And I said, "Yeah, I wish I could. Well, I wish I would look like Sarah Palin, but I wish I could scare you. Because I wish somebody could come to the Soviet Union in 1917 and scare that guys. If somebody would come to China in 1948 and scare them. If somebody will be in Cuba in 1959 and scare that people." And then amazingly enough, the organizer, after we finished, organizer of the tea party there, a very nice lady, she came to me, she said, "Oh, we have, in Sherman there's nothing to do. So that's why everybody shows up no matter who comes." So that means that even if the communist preacher would come there, the same people will show up because nothing else to do in Sherman. But I think this is the most important, to reach out to people who otherwise stayed out of politics. And I think that this we can, we definitely should applaud to Tea Party, and amazingly enough, acknowledge Mr. Obama, because that's what he did. He reached out to people who were staying out of politics. And we missed these people. And so that's why I'm afraid that Mr. Obama is very much in the position of continue his very effective destruction of this country and its freedoms. And that's what I'm kind of really very much afraid of, because I'm doing seminars in Washington, D.C., and I see a lot of cars there already with a bumper sticker, Hillary Michelle 2016. So then you will have Obama dynasty would be like Bush dynasty forever and ever. And so the idea is, and I talked on this seminar, I'm with Eleanor Clift. Eleanor Clift, she is a kind of a mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. And she told me, yes, we think that maybe Hillary can do 2 terms and then that will be Michelle's another 2 terms. So they're already planning how to rule us for another 16 years. So that's the, and I'm afraid that this kind of ticket can be on the winning side. Yes. Unless we should, the great Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises, he wrote a very sad essay in 1956, Are We Historians of Decline? His point is, how do we see the country, the freedom going down the drain? And his point is, no matter what you think, you don't have a choice but to fight for your liberty. And I think that because I know a lot of discouraged people, I have some wonderful friends from Virginia who right now are living in Vevey, Switzerland, and many others. I think that this, we shouldn't, before defecting again, I would do whatever I can do to bring liberty here, because it's, when I lived in the Soviet Union, I never was thinking even in that direction to have children, So, and I was not married, didn't have children, whatnot. Came to the United States and exploded with DNA. I have 4 children. And so that's, and I definitely want to leave them a country which would be free and providing freedom and justice for all. But having said that, the great anti-communist Ronald Reagan, he has this famous quip is that between freedom and tyranny, the only distance is 1 generation. 1 generation separates freedom from tyranny. And I think that today the enemies of liberty, enemies of freedom are extremely active, And today, when I came to Kenosha, I already 23 years paying taxes in Wisconsin. And so when I came to Kenosha, Wisconsin, most of my students were way more conservative than very liberal academics, than the teachers. Today, unfortunately, the years of this brainwashing of the young, they resulted to the point that kids are afraid of saying something, which is not politically correct. They are afraid of saying something. I said some critical things about Nelson Mandela, who was a Politburo member of the South African Communist Party. I remember him grazing in Moscow all the time. He attended all these terrorist groups meetings in the south of Russia when they had this. And in South Africa, I can say the truth. I was in South Africa. I was interviewed by a lot of TV stations, radio stations, but in my school they're just fainting that they hear this. Yes. So because it's amazing that if you would not call evil evil, if you would change. Confucius used to say that when words would lose their meaning, people would lose their liberty. And I think this is absolutely right, because now you have this political correctness is coming through the roof that people do not understand what they're talking about. And this is extremely, I would say, global warming. And this is, again, I think that we should say great thank you to Heartland Institute, which keeps us sane, because that's the most unfortunate thing is that Heartland is the only voice. It's a loud voice and clear voice, but unfortunately it's the only voice in the United States, if not worldwide, which is not scared to tell the truth. So this is an amazing, I would say, and exercise in courage. So that's the and look what they're doing, and some people, and I have some liberal friends and liberal colleagues in my college, and they would say, no, he is not effective. No, he is. Mr. Obama is very effective, and the people around him are extremely effective. They're very bright people like Bill Ayers, who was a terrorist. If you will look at his preacher, Mr. White, Jeremiah, right? So if you will read his book, Mr. Obama was not hiding at all. He wrote this book, which are very self-revealing, especially Dreams of My Father. Then there is a controversy who his father is. I don't care who is his real father. He is the Barack Obama Sr. or it is Frank Marshall Davis, who was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, and he praises him as well in his book. But what I really care about, that he is doing exactly everything according to the Lenin's dictum: the worse, the better. The worse, the better. That if you want to rock the boat of capitalism, as Lenin would say, then you need to do exactly what it. And we have all of the above. If you will see, unemployment is pretty high, but unemployment employment is going down. And people are saying how wonderful it is. But look at another indicator, which is labor force participation rate. It's going down like a rock. That means there's no incentives to work. That he is very good, and his government is very good in destroying these incentives to work. 7 million more Americans are not looking for a job anymore. We have the food stamps explosion. Right now, it's amazing that over 50 million people are on food stamps in this country. If you will look at some, the poorer side parts of the United States, like Puerto Rico, the labor force participation rate is 36%. That means 64% are not even thinking of doing a job, of doing something. So that brings you the mind, I think, the history of Roman Empire, of Austrian-Hungarian Empire, so other empires which perished because of this type. The worse, the better, the better policies. Heritage Foundation. 6 years ago, they came up with this projection that our national debt under Obama administration would balloon to $12.5 trillion by the year 2019. Heritage Foundation, with a lot of PhDs. Now it's 17.5, and by the year 2019, it should be already 24%, 24 trillion. Sorry, 24 trillion. So if you will look at the money supply. Because property rights, that's the backbone of freedom. Property rights, the mother of all rights, according to James Madison. He was absolutely right. You cannot have any other human rights without property rights. But property rights, for many, are denominated in money. Look what's happening with money. It's destruction of our currency, destruction of property rights. If you will look at this money supply, it's just like this. Just like this. Since 2008, it goes exponentially up. We tripled our money supply. Tripled our money supply. And I was in Washington, D.C., attended maybe half a year ago a seminar with Ben Bernanke speaking. And one lady, she I think was libertarian or not. She said, "When do you think you'll run out of paper to print money?" She asked him. And he said, "Come on," he said, "this is all digital. You just press a 0 button on the computer and that's it. You don't need any money and you don't need any paper." That's what it is. Yeah. So this is, I would say, pretty sad. And however, on the good side, I see that in many other countries, the insatiable demand for freedom. You can see it in South Africa. They have a wonderful free market foundation, which is very influential. You see that in the streets of Ukraine, when people are fighting for freedom, they're destroying all the monuments to Lenin and other communist mass murderers. And we should keep in mind, I don't want to spoil your appetite or whatever for this evening, but we should keep in mind that socialists of all kinds, they murdered 220 million people in the 20th century alone. If you are interested in this data, you can visit the democide.org. That's run by the Center for Demographics of the University of Hawaii. Rudy Rummel, he wrote a wonderful book called Death by Government, where he gives out, he's not even accusing government, it's just statistics, giving how many people, how many innocents were murdered here and there, and everywhere. In the Soviet Union alone, from 43 to 61 million people were murdered by socialists. And is that enough? Maybe that's maybe, or should we give them another chance to do that? Because what is another thing which not many people understand about, say, healthcare, free healthcare, or free housing, if you will have, or free this and free that. How that society is called? It's called slavery. Slavery, public slavery. That's exactly what and moreover, why they're so murderous. Because in private slavery, as disgusting as it was, in private slavery it doesn't make sense to kill slaves. You're destroying your wealth. And people would, in most cases, would prevent this from happening. And when you have a public slavery, then nobody cares. And people are not an asset, people are liability. And so you kill them the way and this is something which is also what's a socialist system, which expanded everywhere. If you will look, why Africa is in such a bad shape today? Because of socialists. Soviets installed the stooges all over East Africa, Central Africa. So the present government of South Africa is all Marxist-Leninists, both black and whites. The worst is actually Rob Davis. He's a British communist, emigratus. He's a murderous person. He believes that whites should be killed. He said in South Africa we have the same, where the whites would be oppressors. So we have class and race the same. And you can see that playing the race card in South Africa, or here in my book on the Tea Party, I have this chapter number 7 called "Playing the Race Card," and this is, I would say, the most radical kind of chapter, because what I did, I found out what Democrats were talking about race. What did they say? And Martin Luther King Jr., for example, he said why he was asked why he is not a Democrat, because he was a Republican. And he said, "I never can be a member of the party of lynchers, party of Ku Klux Klan, because that was a Democratic Party in the South. The Ku Klux Klan was created to kill Republicans in the South, and that's what they were doing." And so this is very, very sad that the Republican Party completely lost this whatever social capital they had, and now we have Mr. Boehner openly kissing Nancy Pelosi, celebrating this great victory of selling himself and us out to these big spenders.